started. I apologize for running a little bit late, but the last meeting ran longer and they had to reset the room, as you probably saw, as you came in. So I think everybody's now ready and organized. So I will officially turn on my microphone and call the meeting to order for the planning board for Wednesday, December 14th at 4 o'clock. There are two items on the agenda that are being continued. So if you're here for one of those, it's number 3, Flowering Spade, and numbers 4 and 5, Gorbier. So they will be on the agenda probably for January. Okay, number 1 on the agenda is act on the planning board's annual meeting schedule for 2023. We will be meeting on the second Wednesday of each month for 2023, and you have the dates listed on your sheet. Anybody got questions or comments?
The only comment that I have is that the same person always says, why don't we meet later? Because people work. I just thought I'd.
You'll mention it. Well, we do meet late. We do meet at 5 o'clock in the summertime, as you'll notice, but in the wintertime, 4 is probably a pretty good meeting time.
I'm not arguing.
I know you're not. You're just, for the record, thank you. Any further-
Margie, I did want to mention, I received an email from the town clerk today about the joint planning board town council meeting. So they have a date for January 19th,
Okay, well, let's add that on to this list.
4 p.m.
January, I'm sorry, 19th, you said?
Yes.
At 4 p.m.
Is that something that we can meet with via on Zoom? Because I won't be here. I'd love to be part of that. Can I listen in on Zoom?
Absolutely.
definitely
you
can listen in.
yeah,
I'm
you
waiting-
can actually
okay.
listen in. It's not like we're making this, the planning board's not, it's a discussion. It's not,
Okay.
no action. being
And if you have
taken,
anything that you
so-
particularly want to discuss, you could always send us an email ahead of time. So that we
Okay.
can mention the topic to the town council.
So it's the council and planning. Okay.
It's the council and planning board.
They'll
So-
forward the specific agenda as it gets closer to the meeting date.
Okay.
But I
Thank you.
think affordable housing would be one of the topics being discussed, zoning regulations.
I'm sure we'll have some zoning regulations.
Do they have a time set for that yet?
4 p.m.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion that the meeting dates for January 2023 be approved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Social seconds. Any further comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 2, Brad and Ann Martins, doing business as Martins and Company LLC, Plat 8, Lot 256, 256-1, 256-2, 256-3, 256-4, and 256-5. We will have a public hearing for a preliminary plan to modify an existing subdivision for the proposed lot open space reconfiguration. 1 second. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
So move.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, public session is now in order. Go ahead.
My name is Thomas Liguori. I'm an attorney with offices at 85 Beach Street, Westerly. I'm here today with Ann Martins, and Brad is unable to be here, might be watching due to just having had surgery. I reviewed the pre-application meeting comments and believe that those comments have been addressed in the revised plans that have been filed, the preliminary plan file. As I understand, the planning board and solicitors advice at the pre-application was that since this is a modification of an existing subdivision plus the subdivision plan, in order to modify the approved plan, required to come back to the last step in the process, which was identified by Bill Landry as being the preliminary, needed to file for major land development project preliminary approval for the subdivision, and final could be included or done administratively in this instance. We're proposing to do the final step administratively. And that's because of the second recommendation that was made. All of the supporting legal documents need to be updated to reflect the subdivision modification, the transfer of the prohibition on development on the open space from what the open space had been approved to be, and the initially, and now the suggestion that lots 1 and 2 become open space, and lot that's right, I'm sorry. Lots 1 and 2 become open space in what was previously open space become Lot A.
So what you're saying is the green is going to be a buildable lot and the blue will be open space. Okay, just making sure we're all on the same page.
Great. Those those supporting legal documents have been provided to the to Mr. Landry. I believe that someone from his office is available to participate today if necessary, and he has approved them. So it would be the request that you grant preliminary approval to these changes, and that final be done administratively, and as part of that administrative approval, the executed documents would have to be filed at the time of the approval and the recording of the plan. Among the recommendations that were made, I believe, is that that lot A, as proposed, was to be extended 12 feet into the adjoining right-of-way. It had been proposed in the pre-application plan to only extend to where that prior blue line was. But it was the recommendation that the 12-foot portion of the road be included in the lot. As far as the planners, I believe that the planning memorandum that has been filed with respect to today raises only, I think, one issue that, and that is the irregularity of this line. Making the lot not have a regular circle, a regular configuration, but that's an existing. That was the existing lot line at the time of the purchase of the property by the Marthins before the existing subdivision plan. So in that instance, and in particular, that in that instance, we think that it's something that has to be that's beyond their control. I'm also joined by Sergio Cerenzia of Cerenzia and Associates, and he's available to answer any other questions that you may have. If you have legal questions, you can address them to me. If you have engineering questions, you can address, and survey questions, you can address them to him.
Okay. And I believe you did say that our attorneys did agree with the legal documents that you're filing. Is that correct?
Yes, they'll sent me an email yesterday.
Okay,
Robert Kavanaugh here on behalf of the town and covering for Bill Landry tonight. I can confirm that I discussed this with Bill, and the filing is entirely appropriate. And this procedure for making a modification is entirely appropriate.
okay,
And
good.
Robert, just to follow up, so the legal docs that were submitted, the Declaration of Covenants and Restrictions, that was reviewed by your office, and were there other legal docs, or are there any outstanding legal docs that need to be submitted?
There are three.
Not at this time, nothing beyond what's been presented.
Okay, so you said there's three different,
The three documents that were submitted and reviewed. Amendment to Highland Hill Declaration of Covenants and Restrictions.
okay, I have that one, yeah.
Agreement by and between Martins and Company LLC, Bradford G. Martins, and the Francis M. Snyder Living Trust.
Yep.
And termination of use agreement, which terminates the Atlantic Inn ability to use what will be lot
Okay,
A, which is the former tennis court.
I don't have any questions. Are there questions or concerns from other board members?
no,
No? Okay.
I just had one question, and there were no comments from any of the abutters that were notified?
I will ask as soon as we finish with the board, but we did not receive anything in the way of written.
not that I'm
comments.
aware of, no.
Not that I'm aware of either, and I did check. By the way, Jen is out, our
Yeah.
regular land use administrator is out sick, along with several of our board members. So we're all functioning, but nevertheless, that's the way it goes.
It's
So as
the
far as
new-
I know,
The new normal.
normal, thank you. All right, Gail, go ahead with your question.
That was the question, yeah, if we had heard from any abutters, and if we haven't, that's great.
No. And so no other questions here from the board. Are there any questions from the audience? Going once, going twice. Okay. I don't think there are any questions. Unless there are any other information that you'd like to give us, I will close the hearing and we can talk about the findings. So
Just at the final the final approval be able to be done administratively.
I don't see any problem with that at this point, since we don't have any questions. We will go through the page 2 on the required findings, but I don't think we have any problems, so I will make a motion that the hearing be closed.
Second.
A second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. Okay, on your memo from Allison on page 2, we are required just to go through those findings and make sure that if there's anything we want Allison to note at such time as she writes up the information. Okay, the findings of facts when appropriate to a subdivision. Some of these are not relevant for the lots, and we will go by those very quickly. Number 1, every land development and subdivision shall be consistent with the requirements of the New Shoreham Comprehensive Plan, or shall satisfactorily address the issues where they may be inconsistencies. I believe that's been done. Okay. Number 2, each lot of the subdivision shall conform to all standards and provisions of the New Shoreham zoning ordinance, provided, however, that lots not being created for the purpose of present or future development need not meet the area and other dimensional requirements of the zoning ordinance. We've already talked about the open space area. 3, a notation is to be placed on the recorded plan that the lot being created is a non-buildable lot. And B, a conservation or preservation restriction available to the planning board and in conformity with Title 34, Chapter 39 of the Rhode Island General Laws is granted prohibiting any present or future development in perpetuity. 3, there will be no significant negative environmental impacts from the proposed development as shown on the final plan. Number 4, the project or subdivision as proposed will not result in the creation of individual lots with such physical constraints to develop that building on those lots according to pertinent regulations or building standards would be impractical. Lots with such physical constraints to development may be created only if identified as permanent open space or permanently reserved for public purpose on the approved recorded plans. That does not apply here. 5, all proposed land developments and all subdivision lots shall have adequate and permanent physical access to a public street. Lot frontage on a public street without physical access shall not be considered compliant with this requirement. 6, every project or subdivision shall provide for safe circulation of pedestrian and vehicle traffic, adequate provisions for control of surface water runoff, suitable building sites, and the preservation of natural, historical, or cultural features that contribute to the attractiveness of the community. 7, the design and location of streets, building lots, utilities, drainage improvements, and other improvements on each subdivision or project shall not create flooding or soil erosion. Number 8, all proposals must show evidence of the fact that the project will not, A, unnecessarily impair scenic view, B, burden the existing water supply, C, result in increased traffic congestion, D, create any ground or surface water pollution, E, alter or cut through existing stone walls except as essential to provide safety and necessary access to the property, and only upon the approval of planning board. That doesn't apply. And last but not least, disturb any identifying unique or significant historical or archaeological sites. I do not find that there are any problems with any of this. Anybody have any other thoughts or comments? No. Okay. All right, then I think that we can recommend that this go forward. Allison, have you any comments or questions for us before we go on?
No, just in your motion, the final plan will be approved administratively and
Good.
Maybe stormwater calcs at the time of building permit.
Okay, I so move.
Looks like legal docs have already been reviewed. That's typically, and so that's already been addressed.
Okay,
Second.
all right, it's been, motion's been made and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.
Sergey, this.
Tell Brad we hope he feels better. I'm sure a happy motion will make him feel better. All right, enjoy. You're very welcome. Thank you for coming. As I said earlier, numbers 3, 4, and 5 are to be moved until January. Or at least we hope January, but not tonight. Find out from Allison if I need a motion for this. Allison, do I need a motion for 3, 4, and 5 to? Yes, okay, I make a motion to continue, number 3, Flowering Spade, numbers 4 and numbers 5, Christopher Giori, and, to be continued until, January the 11th at 4 p.m. It's 11th, I looked it up. I noticed one of them had the date wrong, yes, here's the 10th instead of the 11th. They be notified? I'm sure Jen caught it, but,
No.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, is there?
I have the right date. So January 11th at 4 p.m. So, do I have a second for this motion? Okay? Gail seconds. Any further comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, these have been, the motion to continue has been approved, and we will hopefully see them in January. All right, moving on to number 6. Nathan and Kara Stennett, plat 6, lot 2-2, fire 465, Old Town Road. Final plan review of a major subdivision of land off of Old Town Road.
Good evening, everyone. Eric Wallen for Kara and Nathan Stinnett. As I understand it, we're here on final for a 2-lot subdivision, normally minor, normally administrative, this case major. So unless you have questions or comments from me, I understand the one thing that you would ask for at preliminary was the completion of the radius easing for access by fire department vehicles. That's been done. You should in the file have a letter.
Yes,
from
we
the
have a
fire
letter
chief.
saying
So that's
that.
been completed, and so we are hopefully ready to record the plan.
First of all, questions or comments?
We received a letter
Yeah, from the fire department.
and another one regarding the landscape, some landscaping issues.
Yes, and as soon as I finish with the board, I will go to the person who wrote the letter and we will hear your concerns. Okay.
I have two really simple questions. The existing concrete track on the plan,
Yes,
on the, site plan, it says that it's gonna be expanded to 20 feet. And just looking at another plan that's coming in ahead of us after you.
Yep.
It's only 18 feet. Does it have to be 20 feet?
I am told that since the beginning of this application that we have to provide 20 feet, because that's your regulation. So it's clear to 20 feet, but it's not improved to 20 feet. So in all the ones I've ever been involved in, even though, and particularly when you've had those subdivisions that required 40, you didn't
Yeah.
require improvement to the full width, just that it was accessible to them.
Okay, so will the driveway remain under 18 feet wide?
We're gonna just keep, for the, as far as an improvement, it's really just a driveway. There's only one house, well, there's 2 houses served by it. And, you know, when the Stennetts build their house, you know, that lower part of the driveway will get used. But because we're a major, we were required to meet that 20-foot requirement under administrative. And the idea is to keep the property looking as much as it always has been, so that those strips of concrete that are there have served well since the 50s, as I understand. So we don't want to change anything from what's been.
So so the width of the right of way is dictated by how many, by the size of the development, right? So not the stage of, not the, not administrative versus major, but how many, units that the roadway would serve. So the 20 feet width is the width of the actual access, the right of way, not that's how wide the improvements would be. So the planning board provided a waiver from road standards for this development project. So the existing 2-track cement driveway would remain, but the fire department had visited the site and identified some, had some recommendations to ensure emergency access. So that was leveling a certain portion of the land within the right of way, clearing vegetation for, you know, make sure there's overhead clearance for emergency vehicles, and then widening the stone wall, opening a little bit for turning
At the
radius.
entrance.
Yes, so at preliminary, it was combined master preliminary for the subdivision, and one of the conditions was that those improvements be made prior to final plan approval, and that they be reviewed by the fire department, and it also said town engineer. So that was my concern tonight, was the town engineer hadn't reviewed it yet, like inspected it or signed off on it, but the fire chief did visit in September and said that the concerns were addressed. So, it's just, I did speak with Jim Jeremiah today, and he hadn't, wasn't aware of the review, I guess, the inspection and, sign off at this point yet. So that is where it stands with the roadway.
I have on Jim Jeremy's, a letter from him on December 6th, saying they had reviews of proposed subdivision and dated March 23rd, 2022, for Terry and F, and set it and find the plans and documents in line with the town subdivision regulations. So is that,
December 6th.
is it, yeah, it's
Wasn't very long.
December 6th, 2022. So
Yeah.
So it sounds like we've got it.
if you were the planning board, have any questions, please let me know. So apparently somebody has looked at it in his office.
Yeah,
So,
he looked at, he did say today he reviewed 3 sets of plans. So
Okay.
I don't know if he didn't inspect the improvements of
Okay.
roadway. as
so we
far as
could make a note
Which was a
that,
condition, so I
this
think-
approval condition on his inspection and approval.
Okay.
So we will
Um,
do that.
Should,
Whether-
who would request that? Would that be your office? I mean, would it be the town request, since he's the town engineer, or do we request it? How do we?
I'll follow up with him tomorrow because I just talked to him today. So I
Okay.
said I'll make sure he is aware of the condition.
Right. Mary, did you have anything else?
Just a spelling error.
Oh, no.
On,
We caught a couple of them. Where'd you find one?
okay, on proposed lot 2-3, it says, proposed for the retaining wall
Proposed
versus
2, 3.
lot, but it's spelled L-O-K, not L-O-C. By the way, we're not making.
I have a very tiny version of it, so I
Okay.
can't really. see
Yeah,
very-
I was gonna say, I even have trouble,
Get rid of the C and then.
I have trouble even reading the big versions, much less the little ones.
It's minimal.
Okay.
But one more question on that, actually. It's not clearly determined what will be used for that retaining wall.
No,
First
all
lot
of that,
It's
all
not really a
all
great
the work that
material
gets
for that.
done up there, to the best of my knowledge, is gonna be required to be in front of the Historic District Commission.
Yeah.
And I understand that's a concern of the
Yeah.
neighbors. It's certainly been in the forefront of the Stenett's mind on all of this as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Calico Hill is unique, and nobody wants to mess it up.
Claire?
My only question was, are we assured that this, new lot, any development will be served by water and sewer? You know, we're making it pretty small.
Early on, we were given allocation. That was
Okay.
part of the process. So we were given allocation for water. I understand that's been paused now. So I think we made it in under the wire.
Okay, because I think, isn't it getting made small, it's too small to not be serviced by water and sewer? I think I was looking at the residential C
It would
requirements.
always have sewer.
Okay,
It did have wells, but then the town put the water system requirement in place that everybody hook up. So
okay,
at that point, the wells were abandoned.
okay.
Gail?
I have a question in regard to the existing shed to be removed and then
Yes.
the existing garage to be converted. When do we require that to take place? Because how do we police that and ensure that that all actually happens?
Yeah, that garage I was told it was coming down, if not already, soon. So if that needs to come down before recording, that's not a problem. As far as converting the garage, right now, it's not being used for habitation. So before that there would need to be a bunch of work done there.
Okay,
So that's a future plan.
okay. So there's no one bunking out there now with kitchen
No.
facilities? We don't physically look at these
No,
places, so.
I
yeah.
think in the old days, that was employee housing.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah, sure. Yeah.
So and to the extent there can be a 513 up there, I think they want to do that. That's
they'd have to file for
But
that, so.
They would,
Absolutely,
and
Down
they'll-
the
yeah.
road, so that there'll be checks and balances.
The
there.
building, yeah, the building department will need to go up there before
Yeah.
they can issue a building
Okay.
permit for that, so.
Okay, any other questions on the board? Cindy, I know you have some comments to make. Go ahead.
Would you like to change?
Yeah, I was
that,
just gonna say,
Or do you want to do it? from-
no, she has to come to
She
the
has to.
microphone because of the recording for the. So, since we only have one microphone, you have to share.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to talk to you about and I'm sorry I missed that last meeting. That was just so bad. I apologize for that. But I just really wanted to pull a few things from something that you had just read it actually for the Marthins about the number, the two items included in number 8, which were unnecessary. All proposals must show evidence of the fact that the project will not unnecessarily impair scenic views. That's A, and F, disturb any identified unique or significant historical or archaeological sites. And so I went on to just prove and discuss and point out and remind that Calico Hill is very, very significant on Block Island. And I know it's not necessarily under the purview of the planning board, but there have been so many horrible changes going on Block Island where we're losing all these historic houses and beautiful spots that I think that we have to start really thinking about these places before we lose them. And Calico Hill is so rich in history. I mean, and just, if you didn't get the letter, which I'm sorry, Eric didn't, so I'll just read you my quick paragraph on the history of Calico Hill. And it started with the Spartan, which was a iron-hulled steamer that left port in Fall River and ran aground in dense fog right off Harbor Point in 1905. Bear in mind that all the houses are there on Calico Hill right now. I mean, when this happened, mine was 1879. The house, the Stinnett House is pre-1870. Everything else is around the Hutchins old house was 1860. They're all sitting there with these big, beautiful lawns. The Islanders never missed an opportunity, made off with the goods found in the hull, as usual, that we do, and that we always did. Bolts of calico cloth were laid to dry on the lawns in front of the historic homes overlooking the commercial district, later becoming Calico Hill. That's how we got the name. The Block Island Historical Society still has pieces of the cloth on display. There are 6 remaining homes that were built on the hill between 1860 and 1879, and the Stinnett House being one of the oldest ones. There's a picture, it's in Bob Downey's book, of a viewscape on looking from the Surf Hotel all the way down Dodge Street, and not one of those buildings are there currently except the Stinnett House right there, Flint's old house. So it's an important spot. So Calico Hill was always mentioned in all the old maps, pamphlets. It was a place to go see. It was on all the tourist maps. And I just mentioned that it was in Fred Benson's book, mentioned Lauren Legends, Bob Downey's books. Peter Greenman did some research about the Benjamin Rose House, which is now the Stinnett House. And it was the first house built he said it was the first house on Calico Hill. But the Hutchins is 1860, so I guess there's a little issue there. But anyway, I just wanted to really point out the importance of Calico Hill and how these long sweeping lawns have been so important to our history on that hill. And it's definitely changed a lot. Fliv's house, Fliv was meticulous about who was the owner, some of you don't know, prior to the Stinnetts, Flavia Clark, and she was just meticulous about the lawn and the trees and keeping it down, the history. And I just, I know we have a big project here, and we really need to take care. And it's a very, very, very special place on Block Island. So I guess that's what I just really wanted to say. I think it might, and I realize that the subdivision is all, it's all above board. It's all legal. You can do it. But I just will look on Calico Hill and the future of Black Island. We're just losing too many old houses. And if there's anything maybe you guys think about in the planning board about going forward to protect these places. So, thank you.
Good, thank you,
Thank
Cindy.
you.
I appreciate the history. I did not know how Calico Hill got its name, so I thoroughly enjoyed this. And I will ask Eric if he will pass that along to the Stennetts when you give a report of what went on tonight.
Absolutely. I would, just, confirm that, what we've said previously is that the Stennetts, Kara's the daughter of an islander. She knows the island history. She understands, how important Calico Hill is. And I think she's done things in a way to try to keep it, as close to what it's always been as possible.
Good. Any other questions or comments?
This is not the time where we approve a garden plan of any sort, landscape plan.
Landscape?
Right?
No, because I don't, Allison, I don't think the landscaping gets approved at this point, does it?
You granted a waiver.
A waiver on that
Because we
business-
were only doing 2 lots.
That's
and
right.
We don't have any concrete plans for the new building
Okay.
now.
The reason I
Um,
bring that up is that it was pointed out in the letter that those fields were open, and since those days, a lot of trees and shrubs have encroached property. Perhaps we could put in some language that protects the openness of the newly created lot.
I would only ask that be in the form of a suggestion and not a requirement, because we did get a waiver. It's not
Yeah.
that, it's not that there's any plan. The reason we request the waiver is there is no plan to do any extensive landscaping at all. The Stennetts don't have the budget for it. So if anything's going to be done, it'll be to cut things back.
Well,
as
that
you say.
probably is not a
That's-
bad idea either.
Yeah. It's not that, again, this isn't, you've had some people come to you with a budget for a project, and this one isn't one of those projects.
Martha, I saw your hand first, and then Cindy, and then I'll come back to the board.
We're here talking about what it might like, that hill is.
You wanted to, you're on the board, Martha, you know that rule.
Yeah, I know, I ignore it.
I tried the other night and I got yelled at, so now, go ahead.
Calico Hill, I was at the Historical Society yesterday talking to somebody about the lot next door and the Smith driveway. I'm glad to know that's staying. But I also said that hill was bare not in my early memories, in my relatively recent memories. The planting on that hillside was done in the last 30 years. It's not that old. It's just stuff that grew, and it's a really good example of what happens. And outside here is another good example where you plant. The landscaper says we planted 6 things. The committee in charge cuts it in half, and 5 years later they're taking out one of the 3 that's left, because people plant way too much, things grow too fast, we don't realize what's going to happen. I've got stuff like this at my house. You have a willow, pussy willow that comes in a box that's this high. You think, well, maybe one of them will live. Next thing you know, you've got 2 20-foot high trees. And that's what's happened there. So the reference to the grand sweeping lawns is not an old reference for something that was 100 years ago. It is, but it was also, Malcolm has a picture. Some of you might remember the kids sliding on that hill. I mean, that's how recent. No, but it doesn't really matter. But that it struck me that, wait a minute, let's back up and get the proper perspective here.
Okay. Cindy?
I think I was speaking to that too. It's Liz's son Jeffrey at one point put a koi pond there. I don't know if it's still there, but anyway, he built all this stuff around it, trees and things. There was nothing before. And also the bottom of the hill, all the daffodils in the front planted, loved, but the trees have gotten up so high in the front that it just massive. That, when you came down Calico Hill, house. What I forgot to mention was the pump house, and I don't know what you guys are. I mean, that's an old historic, little spot there. There's a pump house on the property, and just, I don't know, it's been there since I've been there for 50 years, and I'm sure it was used. And I do know that there is some precedent in town, for pump house wells and things, and that was when I was in the Historic District, Commission. Debbie Howard, when Ned Phillips was building, you remember this, when Ned Phillips was building the post office, she made sure that the fisherman's well remained. It was historic and it meant something to the town, and I think that maybe into what that is and the significance of that well that's been there, the little house.
Doesn't the Historic Commission have a say over this?
But you haven't gone there yet either, right? You're just doing- Yeah,
I think they would be the party to.
but I just wanted to bring that up and get into the minutes about the,
Mhm.
which is in the letter too, right?
Yeah, well, we can ask that Allison put a paragraph in talking about the historical process and how much we would like them to keep it in historical perspective, opening it up some of the lawns to take it back the way it used to be many years ago. That is how, as much as it's feasibly possible, because I'm not
Sure.
going to require them to do everything, because I realize that people have budgets, but as much as feasibly possible.
Yeah, I don't want to be the kind of lawyer who comes up and starts being legalistic with you. The preliminary
I
hearing
understand.
is the public hearing where we bring all this stuff
Yeah.
out and then respond to it in final.
Yeah.
So I'm certainly happy to have all of this as a suggestion appended to your decision. And I would just tell you that based on all the conversations I've had, that these are concerns that are shared. They're not in a vacuum. This is not just Cindy saying these things. These are things that have been talked about. And with regard to the well house, we've shown it to be removed. If you don't require it to be removed, they will certainly consider saving it, but we had a contractor look at it, give them a price to save it. And at this point, it's decorative. It's not a functional building. It can't be used for storage. Certainly can't be used for housing, although I've lived in smaller places. So again, things like the landscaping, things like the pump house, if you don't require it to be removed prior, because we talked about removing that shed in the back, and certainly we're happy to take care of that. But if we don't have to remove the pump house, we're happy to leave it as long as we can
Okay.
safely.
Yeah, you had a question?
I do, and that's an interesting point to make, because I didn't think of this when we were talking about the first round, but if we could suggest that remain just for that historical character, I was also wondering about whether we can require or suggest that the house be placed where it's proposed on here, so that you do keep the sweeping lawn effect. I mean, do we have the jurisdiction to request these things?
If you request it, remember that siting and massing will be in the purview of historic. And so
Right.
that will certainly be forefront.
But I'm
Let's
more
do it.
concerned with the location, because they might decide, well, it's actually better down here,
Yeah,
closer to the road.
Yeah,
and-
the only reason they would want to be close, think about this, if you're living here year round, do you want to be close to the road, further back?
Well, but that's what I'm saying, I'm thinking on
Yeah, but
a,
maybe
on the
better
historic value
Having-
perspective.
Having lived at 461 Chapel Street,
Mm,
I can tell you, further back is better.
Is better,
So
right.
they certainly would make a decision to move it closer. And I think the only thing that would require anybody to do it anywhere other than where it is would have to be that they found ledge or there's some impossible engineering problem
Okay.
there. And they would have to show that to the Historic District Commission. So again, if you
Okay.
put those things in the appended decision, absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? One last chance from the audience? Thank you. Thank you. All right. Allison, what kind of a motion do I need to make approval for the final plan?
Yep, so you can make a motion to approve the final
Yeah, but I
plan
wanted
of this
to- with-
subdivision and you,
With stipulations,
if there are any decisions, I guess, I just want to check with Robert on the legal docs for this subdivision. Have those been reviewed and signed off on?
Yeah, I mean, this is, final plan can be approved administratively. It's all in line.
You just have to know that that doesn't have to be removed because it's on the plan.
They can amend
Yeah.
like the Mylar that comes in. If the planning board were to say, we ask that that not be removed at this stage or not require it to be removed, like,
Yeah,
you can change it, the label on the plan.
Yeah, I think if you think about it, a lot of times final plans are, there are some conditions to recording.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one of the conditions we just talked about was removing that back shed. If you tell us that you won't make it a condition of recording to remove the pump house, that leaves that door open for us to keep it. In other words, you're not requiring it to be removed, which saves them some money. That's a good thing. And then if they find the budget to repair it, that was talked about, that early on, that was talked about saving it for the very reasons that Cindy brought up. It's a cool little structure. I don't know what you'd use it for. Maybe put a well in if we're running out of water in town. But yeah, I think there was an idea that they wanted to, but the cost to do it was, think about what it costs to do some small project, $10,000, $5,000 to do it right. I mean, that's money.
On the side lane off of Duntown Road, and it's gone. And
Mhm.
it's, you miss it. It's such a sweet little
Yeah.
pump house thing, but it rotted and they didn't repair it. They didn't have to.
It's a lot of money
It's
to
more of that
fix it.
aesthetic value.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Before everything got in vegetation.
So in your final decision, your recommendations would be, improve some of the vegetation.
okay, improve the vegetation,
Yeah.
not require that the pump house be removed, we have another thing that we said. The house be cited basically where it is. And, and the documents have to be, approved before final.
Yeah, I think the documents are just the deeds at this point.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That would be four.
And we did submit those.
You have the
so-
the easements,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
utility
yeah,
easement and
all
the,
of-
right,
Yeah,
the road
all of that's been
been
submitted.
submitted.
That's
those
what-
parts, yeah.
But until we do the
Yeah.
final approval, that would be, subject to having it approved by the,
Yeah, I think at this point it would just need
yeah,
editing if there were any changes,
Okay.
but that's all administrative and.
that's, so,
Preservation of stone walls, we typically put that in as a condition. We will
Fine.
include that for this.
okay,
And the materials of the retaining wall?
Materials for the retaining wall?
Well, it is mentioned here that there might be the option to use these Versaloft. They're not historic.
Yeah, again, I think that's gonna get reviewed by Historic District Commission. They're not gonna let them use any materials up there that will be visual from the street that. In other words, if there's a retaining wall that's not visual from the street, maybe they'll let you use other materials, but they're fairly picky. I don't like going in front of them.
Okay.
That's fine.
Unlike the planning board, which I enjoy immensely.
Thank you.
My favorite board.
They gotta do what they gotta do.
Uh,
So I just made the motion and make sure that Allison has it all down. Okay,
Mhm.
and I need a second.
Second.
Okay, Socia seconds. Anything else that we want to add? Any other comments? Anything we've missed that you want to make sure is on the recommendations?
And then we have the town engineer too signing off on
Yes.
so.
Yep.
I have that.
You got that,
recorded here.
okay. And
And to protect the historic.
and protect the historic character, including the stone walls, et cetera.
Yes, I
But
will kind of
would
include a
you-
summary of the conversation and the
That would be
specific
great.
conditions, and then we can make sure that HDC has a copy of
Okay,
the decision, so they get the recommendations and the comments.
all right. One last chance for any comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
very, very
Eric.
much.
Appreciate it.
Merry
And
Christmas.
Cindy, thank you for coming. And Martha, we also appreciate your comments. Even if Eric doesn't like your board. All right. Okay, is there anybody here from Kathy Payne? Okay, then what do we do? Roll that over until January. I was in, so we don't have the material. I didn't really expect them tonight. So we'll just, do I need a motion to roll it over till January or not? Yeah. Okay, so we'll just put it on to January, okay. And number 8, the Block Island Housing Board, Plat 18, lots 2-3, application for a conceptual plan review for a proposed development for affordable housing. Cindy, I see you hiding in the back. Would you come to the microphone?
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi,
You are again.
we're happy, actually, we're
And
very
you
happy
haven't
to have
seen the
you back.
last of me, I'm afraid.
We will be seeing a lot of each other over the next year or so, I hope.
Yes.
All right, would you like us to, would you walk us through what you've got here?
Let's see, do you have?
We have this.
Layout.
Yeah,
dated?
we've got that. We have your application and we
12
have the
1211 is the map.
aerial view thing.
Great. So basically, this is a courtesy appearance as well as an educational one for the housing board. This is a big project. It's taking some time to get ourselves moving forward. So we were just hoping, whatever advice, whatever feedback that you have for us, we'd love to hear it now while we're incorporating our plan, rather than go down the road and find that conceptually you really didn't like the job that we are presenting. The map that you have in front of me that's dated 12/1/22 is a pretty good snapshot of where we are at right now. We are contemplating 8 duplexes. The property has the ability to be connected to town water, town sewer. We have had a wonderful experience with Barbara Bester and Associates. Some of you may know Barbara. She has been a longtime visitor here, recently bought the Hobie House, so she'll be more intricately involved in Block Island. But up till now, Barbara has pro bono been providing architectural services for us. We've had all sorts of great support and input from Tom Rism, Mike Shea, Barbara, and our engineers. The plan that Barbara is proposing, also the fire department has vetted that hammerhead turn. So the fire department is happy with that hammerhead turn. Barbara has got some creative solutions for the way the roofs would be assembled, and put on these buildings so that we can maximize solar gain. And she was trying to create not, a cookie cutter
Right.
Right.
Gotcha.
plan, trying to make the houses and the contours of the land, be pleasing to the eye and not a cookie cutter like, circle or cul-de-sac where everybody's ringing around that. So we're really happy with all of this. I think our major issue right now that we're grappling with, and I'm hoping we're going to have some engineering solutions really soon, is that old problem of calculating water runoff. So that's what the engineers are grappling with right now. I was hoping they were going to have some insight for me by this afternoon. Last check of my email didn't happen. Once we solve that problem, and I am convinced it is a solvable problem, we'll have a little bit more data that will show you how we're going to deal with the water runoff, because the regulations are pretty rigorous for this application for Rhode Island Housing and DEM. So that's, to me, the biggest problem outstanding. Input from the town and and Mike Shea, and the engineers, we have the road entering West Side Road in a spot where thus far everybody's pretty happy with it. The other thing that doesn't show on this is we will be including at least one ADA unit, perhaps two. So Barbara needs to, because these are two-story buildings, we're either going to have it'll either be the same building with one ADA unit on the first floor and an exterior staircase to reach the second floor, or she may decide that it might be better to have a slightly different designed building with two ADA units in it. So we're not exactly sure which way that will go, but that is also part of the plan. So that's kind of where we're at, and was just looking for questions, comments, concerns that we might not have anticipated at this point.
Yep, go ahead.
I wasn't aware that you were going to ask that question, but I have one answer. In reading quite a few articles about what other towns and regions are doing in our country to create housing that's affordable, one comment came up fairly frequently compared to others, and I know you've discussed this, but I just thought I'd share it. It's called Explore Alternative Construction Methods that offer the potential for lower building costs with their faster construction times and ready access to materials, including modular construction, panelized construction, and 3D printing, and repurposed shipping containers. Off-site framing focuses on increasing home building productivity and reduces time and costs. This represents a productivity increase of more than 500% and reduces total build time by an average of 30+ days, with estimated savings for each house up to $25,000. Contributes to a reduction in errors and reduces on-site skilled labor needs. Ta-da.
These are modular buildings. So they will be, the boxes will be constructed off island and brought over. So they are not storage containers, but
Fortunately.
we're happy about that. But yeah, we will be doing modular construction.
How are you going to finish the outside? 'Cause, well, if I can jump in, just because I wanted to have some kind of feel that reflects mostly shingled block island type housing as opposed to some sightings that really don't look that well out here.
Frankly, I don't know the answer to that. Conceptually, our plan is and has been, we want to use the island vernacular. We're looking for, architectural shingles for the roof. We're looking for probably white cedar shingles on the exterior. But frankly, haven't gone over that with Barbara Bester, you know, what her concept is at this point. But we would be looking for the,
Let's say materials that are appropriate for Block Island.
and sturdy.
Yes.
You
yes,
know,
'cause we
that's
do have
really.
This will get some wind. There's no
Well,
question
not
about it.
just wind, but time. And one of our major concerns is as a rental project, you know, very different from what we've done in the past, which is for sale units, which then the maintenance and the upkeep of that property goes to the homeowner. This is a totally different deal. So this is going to be a town-owned project, you know, for how many years forward? So we want to make sure that we are using quality materials, good exterior construction, you know, to give us that test of time so that we're not in a high maintenance
Right.
repair situation, you know, 10 years in.
Mhm. For 5.
Or, yeah.
The building behind Chapel Street's St. Andrew's Church,
Mhm.
I saw them do something that I'd never seen before. They made it look like it was shingle, but essentially these were strips that were prefab that once applied to the building make it look like it was shingle.
I think they're not plastic, they might be fiberglass or hardy board or
Probably.
something, you know, they're not, it's not wood. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We really haven't gotten to that stage of materials,
Yeah.
exterior materials, but
That's, I was thinking of how this would look as a section, because you're gonna drive by West Side, we're gonna be able to see this, so we wanna make sure
Yeah.
that when you do start talking about the outside, that it's going to be typical New England, fit on Block Island type materials.
that is our,
Okay.
our thrust, but we haven't really spent time with that yet.
Okay,
Speaking of time, this, we're trying very hard to get an application into Rhode Island Housing by, January 12th. We got to have a site plan first that, you know, figures out the water runoff. So we are really,
are they looking
Pressured.
are they looking at rain gardens?
I think that
Is that
the engineers didn't use the word rain garden. They used retention pond, which I think is the same
the
thing.
same thing?
You know, we're talking about possibilities of some underground infiltration. They're still doing the math to
Okay.
try to figure out what can be done, where it goes, and how the math
The
will
rain
work.
gardens can, you know, be camouflaged with lovely native plantings and so forth, so it makes
Yeah.
it look good. Yeah, Gail, you had a question?
Do you think that the parking will be adequate? I mean, because it's 2 per unit, we all know probably won't be enough, but I wonder how you kind of navigate that to make sure, well, yeah,
Right.
it's like there's 2, but you really fits 4 without,
Yeah.
um,
That's an excellent question. I thought that we were trying to do 4 cars. You know, she's just kind of put some cars in here
Yeah.
haphazardly, but I think that you could see that there would be more room for cars. And that is a concern that we have talked about, because certainly we all can see that neighborhood is jammed with cars. There's not enough parking for East Earl's Ball. There's not enough parking for, I keep on calling it Sam Peckham's, but a Salt Pond Settlement. The parking lot at the park gets too full. And, you know, and there's parking, parking going along that road. So important. I think that, you know, one of the questions that I was talking about with the engineers the other day is this a road or is this a driveway? Similar to the thing that you were talking about road widths with another application. There's going to be, you know, 25 to 30 feet of clear area, not developed roadway, but clear area, which would give people the opportunity to do some, you know, temporary roadside parking on that laneway. So I think
But-
between,
Yeah, but I'm worried about having emergency vehicles being able to get passage through.
Well, I'm
That
saying
bothers me.
temporary, there's quite a bit of, if you got 30 feet wide, it's quite wide. West Side Road in front of us is 20 feet
Mhm.
wide. The entryway into the West Side 20 starts off at 26 feet wide and then very, very quickly drops to
Got it.
16
Yeah.
with, wiggle room, lots of wiggle room on the side, but developed
Yeah.
is just 16 feet. So I think with that, in the case of a God forbid emergency, there is a lot of wiggle room because we have
Yeah.
a wide space there designated.
Right.
That's the.
No.
That's the next question. Do you
Yeah.
really want them?
No, but
The
I'm,
answer is I'm not sure you do.
no, and I think the answer is no, we don't. And, we can scale out more cars to look not so haphazard. That's a strange pattern she's got there.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna have a fender bender. But I think that, if you look at building number 3, there's 2 cars there, strangely parked, but in front of number 3, there's room for more cars right there,
Mhm.
It's a. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because in buildings,
There's lots of room.
between 6 and 7, you only have 2 cars. Now, I know this is a concept, so I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but.
But you can see there's quite a bit of wiggle room there that you could,
Absolutely.
you could fit more cars in there. So no, we're not going to be advocating, parking along the driveway. But even when you go in West Side 20, you'll see there are a few places where somebody's parking off the lane. Vehicles can still get by.
Okay.
Yeah. And I guess that's the word, that it would be for visiting,
Visitors.
that there would be 4 cars for each building.
But sometimes people are visiting all of a sudden.
Good point, Mary.
And how many of us have way too many cars?
Definitely.
True.
Well, you end up with teenagers, and we don't know who's going to be renting these. You end up with a teenager who's working, that person is going to end up having to have a car.
Yeah. Well, I
Instead of
mean,
that
when
one
you,
with my kids years ago, I could,
if you look at say buildings 1 and 2, and you see that there's 4 cars there,
Mhm.
if you pulled those 4 cars further in, you can put 4 cars
4
behind,
more cars behind them.
them. So, there is grass, there's going to be a lot of grass there, but you could pull forward. But while you have a lot of land work, yeah, I'm glad you're thinking about it. While you have land work, that will make sense, because you know how challenging it is to back a car out, to get another car out all the time, moving, juggling car positions, but you do have a lot, it looks like a lot of land to work with, possibly create a more definitive parking plan. Right, yeah, I think that, again, just looking at buildings 1 and 2, I don't know why you couldn't park in front of those, and then on the side, so.
Right, but even as you said, to make that the visitor parking plan a softer landscape material, grass or. not
Yeah,
grass,
we're
hardscape.
definitely we're not looking at any impervious
Impervious.
Yeah, that's stuff.
stuff, yeah. So it's gonna
Water
be
can flow through.
grass and gravel.
Yeah.
So going back to the timetable thing, so we're giving it a full court press to get an application in to Rhode Island Housing in hopes that we will have funding. I'm new to that whole process, but I guess there'll be competition. And I guess they have a rating system that you get points, for completed items. The more complete your application and plan, the higher you're going to rate, because they're looking for projects that are ready to go.
You were shovel ready.
Shovel ready, thank you. So I'm being optimistic, but also realistic. I think we're going to have a number of holes in our application.
Will it help if you have a letter from the planning board saying that we approve?
That's where I
the
was
concept?
going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe you were leading to that.
yes, thank you. So, obviously, we don't have final planning board approval. We're far from it. But if, if you feel that this is appropriate, some general letter of support saying that conceptually, looks like we're moving in the right direction, something like that, would maybe give us a half a point on our application.
If you missed this deadline, when is your next deadline?
I don't know the answer to that because I think the state announces, this round of funding, applications due January 12th. Then they go through that and then they'll say, here's the date for the next round of
And
funding,
you
but it
don't
has
know
not
when
been
that is.
announced what
Yeah.
the second round will be.
Well,
So-
aim for this one and then.
We're aiming for this one. We're going, going to give it the full court press, and hope that,
You have a very vibrant, creative architect who,
Mm-hmm.
you're really lucky to have her. It's great.
well, and, I can't thank her enough. I have no idea what this would cost. But she has graciously donated her services and her team, she's got 3 or 4 people that, are
Good.
emailing us and sending us stuff and responsive on the phone and,
Yeah,
it's been
great.
really good.
Yeah, she did some great projects in LA. Black
Yeah,
Bird,
she's an award-winning,
yeah, she's very good. And she's
architect.
Done some smaller houses for affordable in LA.
And she has some affordable,
So
affordable.
that could be on your checklist for your
Yeah.
application.
Definitely. Use
uh,
that.
Yeah, yeah.
That she's experienced.
Yeah.
Okay, big stuff. Very
Okay,
creative.
Claire, you got any questions?
No.
Mary,
no,
anything else?
Oh, just one more thing. This is so exciting. You can get rid of that invasive miscanthus grass now. It's filling up. That's true. Go with a bag of
Always
every.
happy.
Put it out. Put it
And,
out. Fill that lot.
speaking of the physical property, there is a rudimentary kind of stone wall running north-south through the property. It doesn't run the whole length of the property, but most of it. It's kind of bramble covered for the most part. Mike Shea has voiced the opinion that he would love to see us take that stone wall, use those stones and put it on the boundary line, which would be our southern boundary line between us and the cemetery. So we all like that idea. Hopefully you guys like that idea.
That makes a lot of sense.
Just use those same stones to create that boundary line.
Speaking of that, if I may, is the entrance right where the entrance on this concept, is it where there is already a break in that stone wall? Right along.
It's pretty close to that.
It looks
Mhm.
like it
Yeah.
was close there.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
So I don't know how you would word this recommendation or support.
Something,
So I was,
that's what Allison's for.
if you recall, this project had gone through a zoning amendment and a comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment that the planning board had supported and approved and the town council approved. So that's some language with, like, the town council resolution that was drafted. Do you know where that's, when they're voting on that? Like, that was becoming up.
I saw that,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure pretty soon.
Okay, I'll check on that
yeah.
to see if that's the final language for that. So we could probably share some language from what was included in the town council resolution. But just generally supporting, like, the comprehensive plan language in there about the need for affordable housing and how
Right.
the planning board
That we should-
supports.
That we approve,
Um,
we applaud the
Yeah.
concept plan that it was been presented.
And then, yeah, and we'll talk about tonight's presentation. The concept plan's been submitted, pre-application was
But
held
Yeah.
and the
And,
planning board.
pending finalization,
Yeah.
you know.
Having had to do applications, I know that the nicer, longer letters
Yeah.
on a nice letterhead do help.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that
Allison
there's
can do
no,
something,
if
I'm
there's
sure.
no significant concerns raised, like, I could include that if you feel comfortable with that language, just saying that at this stage, you didn't raise concerns with the layout
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. And they're continuing to work on the water runoff and the parking, so that it will best serve the community.
Also, speaking of best of the community, was there discussion that was, am I right? I think you were talking about solar on the roof. We could mention that as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, we are concurrently, hoping that we will get some grant support for solar panels as well as the mechanicals in the houses.
Okay, so, great. Okay, do we need a motion for this or just a consensus
Yeah,
of?
you can make a motion.
Okay.
That we draft like a. letter
I'll
of
make a motion that
support.
we draft a letter of support for the housing board for the concept plan for housing 16 units off of West Side Road.
Second.
Okay, Socia second. Okay. Any further questions, comments?
And thank
Okay.
you so much.
All
for
those in favor
your
say aye. Very good. Thank
We
you.
will do our best to make you proud.
Yes.
Good luck.
Well, this is great. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. There's a lot of work on this, both in the past and in the future. So thank you. We'll look forward to seeing you back. Harry. Okay, there are no minutes because Jen is sick, so I'll make a motion that the meeting be adjourned. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. We will have a long agenda in January, so I keep that in mind. Thank you for coming.
I saw two people